Merry Christmas, fellow Decepticons. Sound Blaster 1987 here with my Christmas 2024 special. Today, for my first ever live action movie review, I'll be looking back at one of my all-time favourite Christmas films, the 1992 Christmas musical, The Muppets Christmas Carol. For those who don't know, the original story of A Christmas Carol was written as a Victorian prose novel by the legendary Charles Dickens. And the narrator character that the story is told from the perspective of is basically supposed to be like a fictionalized version of Dickens himself within the universe of the story. This narrative format is pretty well upheld in this movie by the great Gonzo, the Muppet Show's acrobatic daredevil character, who was supposed to be like Charles Dickens narrating the story along with Rizzo the Rat. But basically, the story of A Christmas Carol is a, greedy, cantankerous old man with a cynical outlook on Christmas called Ebeneezer Scrooge, who gets haunted by multiple ghosts on Christmas Eve and ends up changing his behaviour and making amends for his past actions with the community around him, including his nephew Fred and the employees at his bookkeeper's shop. So, the main cast of the Muppets franchise are in various roles throughout this movie. I won't list them all because we'll be here all day, but the basic ones are the band, Dr. T from the Electric Mayhem, which Animal and several other characters belong to. They appear in a flashback during the Christmas party at Scrooge's first job with the Ghost of Christmas Past time travel flashbacks. Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy play the Cratchit family, Bob Cratchit and his wife Emily. Kermit's nephew Robin the Frog plays Tiny Tim, the severely ill and partially injured son of the Cratchit family. The Great Gonzo and Rizzo the Rat are the narrators, as I mentioned before. The Swedish chef also appears as the caterer for the Christmas party at Scrooge's first job during the time travel sequence. Fozzie Bear and his mother basically supposed to be, parodies of Fezziwig, the actual real name for Scrooge's first boss from the original story. The cantankerous old heckler duo Statler and Waldorf and the ghost of the Marley brothers, Jacob and Robert. Jacob was in the original book, but Robert was created specifically for the Muppets movie so that Statler and Waldorf wouldn't be split up. Because Jacob Marley was the original one from the book, whose face appeared in the door knocker at Scrooge's house. And all that kind of stuff. Then, of course, you've got various other background Muppets, as most of the civilians in Victorian London, and various background duplicates of what looks like Rizzo the Rat, most of the bookkeepers at Scrooge's moneylender's shop. The mad scientist Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and his cowardly companion Beaker are supposed to be charity collectors in this movie as opposed to scientists. And there are other cameo appearances by other Muppets, but they are minor compared to the other characters I mentioned before. So, yes, there's a lot of songs in this movie, with it being a musical and all. My personal favourite is the Ebeneezer Scrooge villain song from right at the start, but it shows how much the community hates Scrooge for his past behaviour and his attitude toward Christmas and such, and how cold-hearted he's gotten over the years. But, of course, there are a lot of other good ones, including Only One More Sleep Till Christmas, Wherever You Find Love It Feels Like Christmas, and that kind of thing. There are also several reprises of past songs throughout the course of the movie, in one way or another. The Muppet version of the storyline is pretty faithful to the original book, as far as I can tell from my research. I've not read the original all the way through, but I've read a few excerpts of it here and there. It is a really good story. I recommend you track down either the Muppet movie or the original book at some point. Most libraries should have it. But yes, for those who don't know the story, I'll give you a quick recap. Ebeneezer Scrooge is a cynical, greedy, money-obsessed moneylender and bookkeeper in Victorian London, whose business partner, Jacob Marley, was dead before the story started. It's never explained how Marley died, but again in the Muppets movie, because he's played by Statler and Waldorf, they had to throw Waldorf in as a second Marley Brothers ghost just to give the pair something to do together. So, Scrooge's nephew Fred comes to visit the bookkeepers to invite him to Christmas dinner with his family and such, but obviously, being the cynical old Christmas-hating man that Scrooge was at the time, he passed up the invitation with the words, "Bah! Humbug!" Get used to that phrase because you'll be hearing it a lot in various other parody versions of the Christmas Carol story, including the Scrooge McDuck Disney version. So, Scrooge tries to basically threaten Fred and pretty much everybody who goes around with the words Merry Christmas on their lips to be cooked with their own turkey and that kind of thing, throwing Christmas carolers and charity collectors out the door as violently as could be considered possible in Victorian times. Then when he gets home from his long day at the office, he ends up seeing the face of Jacob Marley and the door knocker on his house, and then he ends up getting haunted later that evening by both Statler and Waldorf as the ghost of the Marley Brothers, who sing a song about how his soul is pretty much doomed if he doesn't redeem his behaviour and all that. In addition to obviously overworking and underpaying his employees, especially Bob Cratchit, who's got a terminally ill son. And of course medicine wasn't back in those days the way it is now, so obviously whatever Tiny Tim had wrong with him, Victorian medicine would never have cured anyway. If anything, it would have made matters worse. But anyway, Scrooge was not happy about having to give Bob Cratchit and the other employees the whole day of Christmas off, but since he's the only one that seems to care about profit and whatnot around here, he still begrudgingly gave them a day off. Then, as the night progressed on, Scrooge was visited by 3 ghosts in sequence. First the ghost of Christmas past, then the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas yet to come. The ghost of Christmas yet to come is designed to be somewhat similar to Death from the, classic fictional depictions of the Grim Reaper, dark cloak, hood, and carrying a long bladed scythe and that kind of thing. Ebeneezer Scrooge in this movie is played by the legendary Sir Michael Caine, who you might also know as the voice of the spy card Finn McMissile from the Cars 2 sequel by Disney and Pixar. An incredible actor who definitely needs more respect in my opinion. And another Muppet character that makes a cameo in this movie is Sam the Eagle, the American bald eagle character who's, he's supposed to be a bald eagle, but he's powder blue for some reason. And he plays the headmaster of the school that Scrooge went to in the Ghost of Christmas Past time travel flashback scenes. And, so yes, the Ghost of Christmas Past appears as a young child that flies Scrooge out of a window through the passage of time to take him back to his childhood to discover where his hatred of Christmas began and all that. Showing him one Christmas after another of his early childhood, his teenage years, and some of his first jobs and whatnot, and how his obsession with money cost him the love of his life, a woman called Belle, which in turn also made him even more cynical around the Christmas season. Then, after the Ghost of Christmas Past, came the Ghost of Christmas Present, who taught him to appreciate how everybody else around him celebrates Christmas right this minute, and potentially warns of the consequences for the Cratchit family if things don't improve financially for them in the coming year, with regards to Tiny Tim not surviving and all. Then, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come shows Scrooge a future in which he's pretty much almost forgotten about and just mocked by the community after his death. And people are selling off his possessions to the highest bidder on the black market and all. These ghostly visits, combined with the warnings of the Marley Brother ghosts, cause Scrooge to change his behaviour entirely and promise to keep Christmas in his heart the whole year round, and sends a young street urchin to buy the biggest turkey in the shop to give to the Cratchit family, which in turn redeems his entire behaviour from multiple years of greed and anger and whatnot. He also buys a whole basket of coal for the workplace fire for each of the bookkeepers in the office as well. I have to admit, although I've only seen this version, part of the Disney Scrooge McDuck version, and the 2011 movie adaptation of the Christmas Carol storyline, I have to say I think the Muppets version did it best in my view. It should be on Disney Plus for those who want to watch it, and that more or less concludes my review. I've been SoundBlaster1987, thanks again for watching. I'll leave a link in the description down below for places where you can find the original book or DVDs of the Muppet version. My next live action movie review will be, sometime in January or February 2025, when I'll be looking back at some of my favourite films from the MCU, starting with Avengers 2012. Then, my next animation review will be the 1996 The Woody Woodpecker Show remake, The New Woody Woodpecker Show, starring Billy West, Mark Hamill and more famous actors. But until then, my next review will be the Arctic version of number 1 from Codename Kids Next Door. Till then, till all are one. Oh, oh, oh.